Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so today's main event is called time travel because it's all about the historian's measurement of time. So time is a unit of measure, just like anything else with math or science when you're converting units. So we call the time period that we're in the common era, and it can be broken down into many smaller parts. So a millennium is 1,000 years. We're currently in the third millennium CE. A century is 100 years, and we are currently in the 21st century CE. A decade is 10 years, and we are currently in the 2010s. A year is 12 months, or 365 days, or 366 in a leap year. And a month, some have 30, some have 31, one has 28, and sometimes 29. It's really clearly all messed up. But moving on. A day is 24 hours, an hour is 60 minutes, and a minute is 60 seconds. So time can be broken down to very, very small units of measure with a minute or seconds. It can go up to thousands and millions of years. All right, so how do historians use time? Well, the major thing that time lets us do is put things in the order that events happened. And this is something called chronological order. So think of how you use a flow map and put things in the order that it happened. Or when you tell a story, the first thing that happened usually comes first, and the last thing that happened usually comes last. It's the same thing with time and how historians use time. Now, a visual way of showing time is by using a timeline. And we want to think of a timeline as a historical number line. So think of your number lines in math. And this is actually a math number line right here, where you have 0 in the middle. All the numbers on the right-hand side are positive numbers, and all the numbers on the left-hand side are negative numbers. The way that historians break up time is very, very similar to this. So in order to understand it, we have to learn the historian's language for a timeline and translate it from our prior knowledge of what a number line is in math. So let's do that right now. We're going to build a timeline together. So these next few slides are going to help us build that timeline. So follow along and copy these down in your notebook as we learn how to build a timeline. So the very first thing you want to do is you want to give it a title. So since this is an example timeline, we're just going to call it timeline example, or you might call it example timeline. Remember, think like you and not like me, and give it your own title that's in the spirit of an example timeline. We also want to start by putting down a timeline here, the actual line itself. So draw a line, and you probably want to run it across an entire page. Run a line across your entire page, put arrows on the end because time goes beyond this line and in both directions. And then we want to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 dashes for our different dates. Next, we want to find the middle dash, which is going to be the 6th dash from either side. And we want to put a 0 underneath there. So like a number line, time doesn't start at 0. It's kind of in the middle. So we want to put it in the middle there. So quick question. There have been lots of different calendars that measure from different year zeros, but the one we use today was invented by Christians. So can you guess what year they chose as zero? Give you a little time to think about that, and when you think you know the answer, quietly raise your hand. So that year zero is representative of the birth year of Jesus Christ. So for all of you that guessed that, great job of making an inference. So instead of negative numbers, they call all the time before zero b.c. for before Christ. And all the numbers after zero, instead of positive numbers, they call all the time after zero AD for Anno Domini, which is Latin for in the year of our Lord. So in modern times, this system has become universal, meaning most of the world uses it. And because of this, historians wanted to come up with a more universal way of measuring time, as opposed to tying everything to the birth of Jesus Christ. So, in order to make things a little less religion-y, they made a slight change to the terms used. All the time before zero is now called before the Common Era, or b.c.e. for short. All the time after zero is now called the Common Era, or CE for short. So as you can see, the abbreviations have changed from BC and AD to BCE and CE, but the actual measurement of time has gone unchanged. Year zero is still right where it was in the Christian calendar. So there is absolutely no change beyond just the terms. BC equals BCE and AD equals CE. So we are currently in the Common Era, or CE. So today's date is really written like this: October 21st, 2013 CE. Timelines can look all sorts of different, and we're often familiar with timelines and we don't even know it. For example, if you use Facebook at all, Facebook runs off of a timeline feature where everything happens in order of when it happened. So you can go back through your Facebook profile and see a timeline event that happened in your life.
Come on, baby. You did it.
Timelines can be historical timelines. So for example, this one here has important dates in history. 1752, Ben Franklin flies a kite in a storm. 1770, British soldiers fire upon colonists at the Boston Massacre. So timelines are made up of dates in chronological order on a line with historical events within those dates. So what we're going to do today for our Tying Up Loose Ends is you're going to make a timeline of your life. So here's an example of a timeline for my life. Always, always, always when you make a timeline, put down a title for it so we know what the heck we're looking at. So I started off my timeline with my birth. So I put 1985 CE and put that I was born in Ypsilanti, Michigan. In 1986 CE, my brother was born. In 1988 CE, my sister was born. And I moved on down the line here with other events matching up with dates in chronological order. So for the remainder of class today, take this opportunity to start creating your own timeline in your notebook.